مستر محمد.
اهلا حسام، ازيك؟
بيك اهلا، ازي حضرتك؟
اخبارك انت ايه؟ كله
الحمد
كويس؟
لله كله تمام يا فندم، كله تمام.
تمام الحمد لله.
الحمد لله كله زي الفل. اوكي سو
few minutes before it اهو جاهزين.
ثانك يو
انت
سو
ايه
ماتش.
اخبار الدنيا عندك؟
اول از جود الحمد لله، كله ماشي كويس جدا.
ساكن فين، في اي ناحيه؟
انا ساكن في اسكندريه حاليا، يعني قفلت شغلي في القاهره ورحت عشت في اسكندريه مع اهلي يعني.
ايه احسن من هنا ولا؟
يعني جو الطف، يعني دي ليها عيوب ومميزات ودي ليها عيوب ومميزات يعني.
طب
طيب I
very good.
guess we have enough attendees and we can start now يعني. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's Egypt Fintech Dialogue webinar. We are thrilled and very excited to be interviewing today Mr. MOHAMED OKASHA, the co-founder and board member of Fawry. Once we announced this webinar, we had a lot of questions coming and people asking and showing excitement about this webinar, and we're very happy that we have you today. Thank you so much, Mr. MOHAMED OKASHA, for joining this. First, I would like to
Thank you Sam for having me.
I would like to start with asking you about early days, your background. Where are you from? What have you studied? Do you started any companies before Fawry? يعني the pre-Fawry era يعني.
طيب انا I'm a graduate of EUC, major in computer science, minor in business administration. I started my career in programming. Actually, I was a software engineer. A few months then I moved to a company called Protech. That was in 1995. Protech was very famous at that point of time by being an IT system integrator. So that was my first job. After that, Protech was merged with another companies and formed one of the biggest local players in the IT space called Raya. Then I left in 2006 to join Vodafone. I stayed there for 3.5 years almost, and that in Vodafone I was mainly focused on the marketing side, and I have done a lot of initiatives. One of my responsibilities was the mobile payment. In 2009, I met with my founders, my co-founders, I would say Ashraf and Magda, and we started the Fawry journey.
Super interesting. I guess this was the first attempt to have any mobile payment in Egypt, right?
In Vodafone, we already had at that point in time launched Vodafone Cash. The famous Vodafone Cash was actually launched in Vodafone in 2007.
Okay.
And I was responsible for that as well.
Okay. So what was the rationale behind starting Fawry? What was the challenge, the need in the market that make you guys start such an amazing company?
Actually, the way it happened is in 2009, my partners Ashraf and Magda already started Fawry a few months before me joining them, and it was focused on building bill payment services for banks. So the focus is allowing consumers to pay their bill through ATMs mainly. Then when we met, I told them that the problem will not be solved there. There isn't enough ATM, there is not enough bank people. So the solution would be in retail. And I actually learned that from my work in Vodafone, where I had a chance to go to Kenya, to India. And then we decided that this would be our next big thing. And we worked for a year. And then in 2010, I think in summer, we launched, that was the first launch of Fawry services in retail.
Did you have this idea or vision in mind that we want to IPO this company in like the next 10 coming years, or you didn't think of this, or this wasn't on the table?
Not really, but I mean, previously the three of us, Ashraf, myself, and Magda, were already executive in Raya. And during our work there, Raya went IPO. So the idea of having an IPO was always in mind, but we didn't know when. so the decision of going IPO was not something that we planned for initially, but we're very excited to do it twice in our life.
Speaking about of crisis, and we're now living in the time of Corona epidemic. I like 2008 was the big financial crisis. Did you have did you have like a plan surviving this crisis somehow? Did it affect you in any way, or it was like 1 year after?
لا احنا our launch was after that. Actually, the crisis that we went through was the revolution. I mean, we launched our service 2010. 6 months after that, we had the first revolution, and we had a lot of, I would say, uncertainty, instability, security issues. So it was a major event for a startup like us. I mean, we just started to roll out our network, and we were faced by this thing. And I think we made a very smart move at that point of time when we decided to go ahead and go very aggressive. Although that we had a lot of, I would say, couple of 3 competitors that were almost starting at the same time. By us taking the decision to move very quickly, the gap between us and them is almost was widened very big for them to catch up later on.
Yeah, okay. This is very insightful because a lot of startups nowadays are asking whether in this current epidemic, should we just keep on track and try to survive, or should we like get more cash and trying to scale and go for growth? So what works for you was growing and doing actually better than the competitors.
I'll tell you what exactly happened to us, because I mean we went to our start was going through a very tough time. We had 2011, 2013, 2014. If you remember, that there was a lot of difficult time Egypt went through. And for us as a startup working in the streets with a lot of representatives visiting stores, we were taking a lot of risk. But first thing we did when we started to have these problems is first to stress test our P&L and cash flow. So we were very careful about how can we make sure that we have enough cash to go through this difficult time. We started to put our priorities in order. I mean, what would be the number 1 priority for us to work? And always our priority was growth. Growth was key for us as a startup. And we know as long as you are growing, as long you will be able to raise money. And if you be able to raise money, you will be able to survive more. So we never thought about slowing down, or I would say, of course, we thought about cutting costs and putting a lot of control on cash, but it's not the stopping growth is not on the table at any point of time. I would say another thing is that we learned from that crisis. I think it would be useful to be done in the same time. This time is the idea between being defensive versus offensive. I mean, we will always think of this difficult time as an opportunity. And we made use of a lot of this opportunity by moving very quickly on our competitors' fronts, and we gained a lot of market share out of this.
This is so insightful. So speaking of the investment part, you received investment, or you raised the investment during the revolution period?
Yes, actually, we were in discussion with IFC, and IFC, as you know, is the investment arm of the World Bank. And IFC at that point of time were very keen to look at countries like us, where there is a potential for financial services to grow. Although that we were not very aggressive on evaluation, and we were not able to achieve our ambition, but we managed to raise a significant amount of money at that point of time. We raised around $6 million in 2012. That was very difficult for a company, but for them is that they saw that we have a network in place. They saw a growth trend. They saw technology infrastructure ready, and they saw a vision. I mean, that was very important for someone to put money, is to see how much you see beyond this crisis, beyond this difficult time, how things will develop and how you will survive.
And turned out they were very lucky to invest in Fawry.
They made a good money, I would say. They made very good money.
Okay, perfect. أنا يعني you've been operating and you've been يعني having this position in Fawry for almost 10 years. Would you like to tell us about more about how the company evolved from a small company to the IPO, your businesses, your services, products, lines, operations, number of customers?
طب let me take you through the investment track first. I mean, we were founded by institutions. I mean, it was not just a few individuals who are founders who start the company. No, we know that we are building financial services, and it was clear for us from day one that we are building an infrastructure for Egypt. Mm-hmm. So we had 3 banks who are founder with us. We had a technology company, we had a technology fund. And the trio between technology and venture capitalists and banks, we had a very strong backbone for our company to start. In 2012, we had the first raise of capital from IFC. And then in 2015, we had the first exit where the consortium of funds have exited all the original founders except the management. And we continued with them for another number of years. In 2017, we had another round of capital raise. In 2015, we were evaluated at $100 million. In 2017, we were evaluated at $190 million. And in 2019, that was the IPO last August, and we were evaluated at the IPO time is $275. Now we are being traded at around $400 million. So that was the growth path in terms of the investment.
Yes.
In terms of the development of the product itself is, first of all, we believed in 3 things. One is the power of network. We believe in countries like us where the banking infrastructure has a lot of limitations, and we need to complement that, but something that solves the problem of not enough ATMs, not enough point of sale, not enough bank accounts. It's a cash society. So the agent network was key. And we worked very aggressively on building a very mature and well-distributed agent network. The second objective for us was that we have to build a platform, by platform connecting all the stakeholders, by corporates, governments, operators, banks, merchants, consumers, and enable all of them to deal with each other through our platform. The third was important, I would say, aspect of our business was the brand. We had to work on a brand that people will trust. And I think in that, we executed very well on this track. And throughout the years, we were not known. Then the brand was building very slowly until now. Everybody now knows Fawry. And if you tell anybody that you would do the service through Fawry, you don't have to explain for him how to do that. So it is being very recognized. And this is major assets. I mean, the network and the platform and the brand was key in our launch. If I talk about the product, I mean, we started by offering a bill payment services. So it's a services that allows consumers to consolidate their bill payment needs in one place. So if you are a banked person or you have a bank account, you can do it through your ATM, your internet banking, your IVR. And if you are non-banked, you can do that through post office, through hundreds or I would say thousands of outlets who are equipped to buy Fawry point of sale. That was the first line of business that we start, and we have matured it to become what we call an alternative digital channel. Let me explain that for a while. I mean, all the corporates, governments, and operators and banks have a problem of reaching their customer, either to collect from them or to disperse money for them. So Fawry built an infrastructure that helped them to provide an alternative channels for this function. So if you want to collect money, you allow your customer to pay wherever they want to, in the kiosk, in their way home, in their office, through internet, or through the ATM. So any channel the customer choose will allow you to pay for you for your company or your operator or your bank. Second is the disbursement of cash if you want to cash out. If I give one example that مثلا the beneficiaries of Nasser Bank, who are around 300,000 person, can now cash out their salaries from using Fawry point of sale. Before that, they will only be able to do that through an ATM network. So we provide an extension of the limited number of ATMs in Egypt. The second line of business, which a bit new to us, is the acceptance. By acceptance, we have a solution that allows the corporates to accept payment electronically, either on their website or in their store. Mm-hmm. And that's either through a point of sale or through a Fawry plugin on their e-commerce site. That provide also the customer with different options, and one of the options would be the reference number that almost represents a cash complement to the electronic method. The third line of business. Sorry.
Fawry Pay.
Fawry Pay. That's the brand name for the payment.
When was it launched? When did you launch?
It was launched a couple of years ago. And it was launched as an e-commerce, then it was launched as in a store. The third line of business is what we call FMCG services, where we allow the FMCGs to reach their retailers by placing orders, by paying, collecting cash, or what we as a cash management for them. And also by providing what we call a trade finance or an overdraft for retailers to buy from their suppliers using the credit provided by Fawry. Mm-hmm. The last line of business was the microfinance company that we have established a year and a half ago almost. And we got a license for that, and we started to finance our retailer through this arm as well. So that are sort of the summary of the line of business that Fawry is providing to the market. In general, Fawry has become to a great extent an infrastructure that are complementing financial services infrastructure existing in Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Yani sounds very interesting. Covering all the financial infrastructure and yani like achieving gain for the investors and even for the people who bought the stocks. On the when you did the IPO. Very impressive, Mr. Okasha. Moving from Fawry and the story of Fawry to Fintech in general, when do you think Fintech in Egypt became booming? And I very much believe that Fawry had played a huge role in this. When do you think this?
Let me tell you, till 2015, when we had the first exit, the term Fintech were not commonly used in Egypt. I mean, there was financial services offered by banks or financial services offered by non-bank. So like microfinance and stuff like that. So the term Fintech was first introduced in Egypt at around 2014, 2015, where people started to hear this term using technology to reach millions of people or hundreds of millions of people using technology. We had a role to play in that because we were building everything from scratch in Egypt using our own stuff. So the technology that Fawry is offering to the market now is fully developed by Egyptians in Egypt. So that was a very important thing for us because they provide for us a lot of agility and a lot of capabilities to adapt to the current needs. And also we would had the chances a couple of years ago to go out of Egypt and provide that the platform that we have built is a world-class software where we signed up one of the biggest banks in UAE to use our mobile platform. The investments that we have put in the technology, great part of it went to the mobile. We had a great belief that the mobile as a platform is the future. So in 2014, 2015, we started very aggressively investing in the mobile platform. And currently, I think we have more than 22 banks and operators who are riding on our mobile platform as a white label platform. So, and we believed also that for this platform as an enabler, it is not for us to make money from, it is to enable our partners to come up to go live.
Yes. Okay. So what do you think are the biggest challenges that's facing Egypt's fintech scene today, and what are the opportunities in terms of regulation, in terms of technologies, in terms of talent, in terms of innovations?
We have been always complaining as startups about the regulations, but I mean, what happened in the last couple of years and maybe in the last few weeks was a phenomenon. يعني, who would believe that the central bank would remove the KYC hurdle and allow a lot of the mobile wallets to input consumers using just as a light registration, and then that can be followed by hard copies. So that's, for me, a turning point. In the last couple of years, we had a lot of moves from the central bank and from the government who were pushing for digital economy in general and pushing for the digital transformation as per their definition. The idea here is that we always bitch for that the digital transformation is completely different from automation. So it is not about taking something that's happening in the past and just doing it in an automated way or using technology. No, it is about moving the way business is being done. I'll give you an example. If you want to an automate process, for example, if you are going to the traffic authority to issue a license, a car license, and you use your car to pay there using a point of sale, that would be a great extent an automation of a cycle that used to happen in cash. But if you allow the consumer to pay from his mobile wallet or from his internet banking or from his ATM for the license, and you get inquiry on the amount that you have to pay and do the payment, and then you receive the license at home, that would be a digital transformation. Mm-hmm. So the way is happening in Egypt now, that the COVID-19 have really provided an accelerator to a sector that is already promising. Yani the fintech was growing anyway, and it was solving a lot of problems in Egypt anyway. And if you look at the central bank and the government activities, initiatives that have been happening, it was happening anyway. But COVID-19 was a great push for this thing to happen much faster. It is up now to the startups and the people who work on the fintech to capture the moment. So fintech is one of the industries that should not have stopped during this period from growing. And I urge all the people who can invest in fintech to do it now, because this is the time.
Okay, this is a very clear statement from you. I've heard a couple of days ago that there's a couple of e-commerce websites are canceling the cash on delivery feature to be only cashless and online payments. So yes, I totally agree that it's now the turn of fintechs.
And what you mentioned is a great example of things that were nobody had dreamed of. I mean, the challenge always that you hear from e-commerce players is that people like cash on delivery, and I cannot get rid of cash on delivery. If I do that, I will lose a lot of customer. Now you find the customer do not want to touch cash, and they want to find a way. So I mean, it is amazing turnaround that happened. And if you don't capture this point, this opportunity, you would miss a lot.
Yes, and I think, Bardo, it's not only for businesses, but also as government. So now the government is thinking of giving people the 500 EGP بتوع العمالة غير المشروطة. So I guess this Bardo will driven their mind to do more of a cashless way and online payment methods as well.
There is no other way. I mean, because you want to do this to a mass number of people, without having them queuing in everywhere. So the only way to do that is using the fintech.
Yes. Speaking about turning from how Corona is affecting fintech, luckily it's giving us a huge opportunity. What do you think of how Corona is affecting the economy in general? Because a lot of people are speaking about recession, a lot of people are speaking about an economic crisis that's even worse than what happened in 2008. What do you think of this?
it is no question that this will happen. I mean, we were already in Egypt as an economy, we were facing a slow demand. I mean, and the whole economy was already facing a potential recession. And there is a lot of activities happening from the banks and from the government to avoid that. So what happened that COVID-19 would, without any doubt, take us to a place where we wanted to avoid. Luckily, that we are doing this in a period where the whole world is happening the same problem. So we will not be fighting alone, I would say. Second is that saying that the recession will happen and we have a lot of problems in terms of employment. Again, there is a big window for opportunity for certain businesses to grow and use the current. Mainly, I would say that e-commerce and the fintech would be the biggest winners of these crisis after this crisis.
Sounds perfect. So we have today we have two Okashas, the founder of Fawry, and the entrepreneur and the investor. Before jumping into Okasha, the investor, I would like us to ask you for an advice from Okasha, the entrepreneur, to the entrepreneurs who are now building fintech startups and building businesses in general. You mentioned the growth in the time of the revolution made a huge difference in your journey. You mentioned that you started not only as like individuals building a company, but you onboarded financial institutions as well. So what's your advice for entrepreneurs and fintech startups?
I mean, there was always a focus from our side on where we want to go. I mean, when you have a clear vision, you go after the tools that enables you to achieve it. So because we want to build an infrastructure and we know that it will be capital heavy, so we went after investors who have deep pockets, banks and big companies. However, there is a lot of much lighter asset, I would say, opportunities that's happening now that only depends on few problem solving. For example, if you want to focus offering a product that was that is already there, but with a much better customer experience and convenience, that would fly. Also, the idea of thinking about how can we remove the middleman of any business. I mean, there is a lot of inefficiencies in businesses that's happening now. And because what's happening now, you can make the opportunity to provide a solution that would be very efficient and reduce cost and time and offer the solutions to either consumers or businesses. Things like also, if you think about consolidation, I mean, the way people now are depending on their mobile for apps, the more and more we would see more apps that the founders have thought about consolidating multiple services in one app. So I mean, yeah, you think about around these lines, and whenever you have a good idea and good vision, you have to look for the right players, partners that could support you to reach this goal.
Okay, thank you so much for your precious advices, Mr. Okasha. Moving back to Mr. Okasha, the investor. First, I would take 5 minutes of your time to speak about your individual experience being an investor, as an angel investor mainly, because I know you've done a couple of deals. Did you invest in only fintech, or do you have other verticals? How many investments, if you would like to share? So, what kind of founders are you looking for?
My only fintech investment was Fawry, I mean, till this point. I invested in a couple or two or three opportunities as an angel investor. And actually, my advice in that space is that you have to focus on either in a business that you understand very well, or you had a previous experience. So as an angel investor, you will not be just throwing your money in an idea and don't know how this business will go. The second, or you invest in a person that you trust. And you know this person, you know that is capable of executing, and you put money in. But I mean, I see a lot of I would say bad experiences for angel investors who invest in either people they don't know, or in business that you don't understand. And the chances of this materializing is quite low.
What do you think of the angel investment scene that we have in Egypt? Because a lot of people, some people are claiming that we don't have like a big scene in Egypt, and there's some people that thinks that we are doing very well in terms of angel investing. How do you see the scene?
I see a lot of very good angel investment cases, but again, around what I have seen around these two cases, either people, if I have an idea and I go to a friends or family or people who trust me and ask for them to participate with me, usually if they trust me, they will give me the money. Or if I have an idea in certain line of business or industry and I go for someone, explain my idea, because he understands the business, he will understand that this has a potential to happen, he will put money. In these two scenarios, I have seen a lot of successful angel investment cases. But again, angel investment is not something that you would say, it's not I would say an amateur game. It has to be a professional game. If you really don't lose too much money, you have to do it in a professional way. So an angel investment happening in Egypt now in a right way.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Okesh. Moving back into the new fund, most of the questions that we have received was about the new fund. The news came to everyone, and everyone was very excited about like someone from Fawry building a new fund. But we don't know any any information about the fund. What is the fund goal? In which stage do you guys invest? What is the stage of the fund itself? Are you still raising? Did you close the fund? What's going on with the fund?
The fund first is a fintech focused fund, and it is only focusing on Egypt as a market. The target size of the fund is $25 million. We had a seed investment from Fawry initially. However, we are throughout the next period. We believe that the first closing should happen before a year end, when we started to have writing checks and making actual investment. However, during this few months, you will be hearing us doing some investments also that we believe that would be a good companies that we don't want to mess on the opportunity of putting money with them now. And in generally, I was, although that we started, I would say 6 weeks ago, something like that, we're very impressed by the landscape, and we still see a lot of opportunities that we can work with. We are going to be a specialized fund. Our target is to provide something different from the general fund VCs that exist in Egypt currently or in the region. We believe that Fintechs is one of the sectors that needs some speciality, or they would need people who understand the regulation landscape, who would understand the infrastructure available. How can you penetrate how can you build a good strategy and execute it in a market like Egypt? So we want to play the money plus advice and support to the startups throughout the journey that they are going through. We were lucky enough as team in the fund that we have seen the cycle from the inception till the IPO. So we had a lot of experience that we can help the startups when they are going through the journey. This fund is going to be completely separate from Fawry. So Fawry is just an investor. And our investment would be focusing on some areas that we believe that are there a great potential for them in the coming period. We are looking to invest in any ideas to merchant lending. Of course, we'll be focused on digital lending as well in both areas. Anything related to data analytics and using the technology to or the big data to make decisions, to enable KYC, to do scoring for lending. Also, the area of electronic distribution. We see that distribution in Egypt is very inefficient and a lot of issues. So any player that would provide an electronic way to do that, that would be another potential area. So we identified few segments that we will go aggressively after finding the right partners to put our money and our experience well.
And what stage will you be investing in?
That would be an early stage fund, but we're not going to be the first money coming into our companies, but probably something around the late seed or pre-A type of investment.
Okay, so I have a lot of other questions, but I found a lot of people asking questions, so maybe it's time to get people's insights as well. So Ahmed is asking, what is the solution to decrease the number of unbanked individuals in Egypt?
Actually, there is a lot of things happening in that space. I mean, if you look at the central bank reports, you see that we have around 35 million Egyptians who have cards. You see a lot, 15 to 16 million individuals who have mobile wallets. So in terms of people who have a tool to pay electronically, there is enough consumers who have a tools. But the issue is on the other side. I mean, there isn't enough accepting point. According also to the central bank reports, we're talking about 135,000 point of sale. If you compare that to any other country versus our population, we are very low in that space. So if you think about only the traditional retail, something in the neighborhood of 350, there is a big gap to cover. I mean, if you have an electronic method to payment, you will not find a place to pay electronically. So that's a gap that we have to fill. But I mean, we are a young and digitally connected population. I mean, the numbers say that most of the population is below 40 years old. Most of the population, I would say 50% now have access to internet. Is how to enable both sides of the equation, the consumer and the merchant side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, clear. Hassan is asking something about Fawry wallet product.
We don't have a wallet. Our Fawry does not have a wallet. Actually, we are an infrastructure, as I mentioned before. So we have the technology mobile platform that are being used by others. So banks and operators are using our mobile Fawry mobile platform as an infrastructure. And we are enabling the other wallets. If we talk about Vodafone Cash, you can do cash in and cash out in Vodafone Cash wallet from Fawry outlets. If you want to pay utilities and pay payment on the wallet, this is done through Fawry. If you want to use the wallets to purchase online or in store, that's happening also through Fawry. So we are enabler to the other wallets in Egypt.
Perfect. Yasser is asking, what do you think of the future of electronic payment?
Of course, what we have, the way Egypt was the payment happening in Egypt before the COVID-19 and after COVID-19 will be completely changed. I mean, the sentiment about nobody wants to touch cash, and the government and central bank actions we think that we're going to see a completely different world. How exactly this will happening and what would be the transformation speed, we have to wait and tell. But I mean, any investment has to happen in that direction. We think that a lot of people I would say companies and merchants would find a way to accept payment electronically, either by enabling their e-commerce, more of e-commerce sales, which is growing significantly in that few weeks, and also by enabling their stores to accept electronic payments. So there will be a major shift in that space.
Perfect. Ahmad Salah is asking, is Fawry working on eKYC solution?
Again, we are integrating with eKYC solution.
And you are building the infrastructure for everything to work.
Yes.
Clear. Okay. Okay, so a lot of people asking about lending. You already in Fawry have a microfinance line of business. So is one of the priorities of the fund has anything to do with the digital lending?
Yes, يعني احنا Fawry is having a microfinance license. So they are licensed to lend merchants. That's already a license that Fawry has acquired a year and a half ago. And they are already started to lend a lot of merchants. But we see that the market is very big in terms of number of merchants, the number of consumers who are potential to get a loan digitally is huge, and no one entity can finance the whole market. So there is a lot of potential again for startups who would be providing a convenient solution to the consumers and to the merchants to receive loans in a digital format.
Okay.
We are investing.
Okay. Clear. A couple of people as well are asking about digital banks. Are we going to is Fawry applying for a digital bank license?
We are listed in stock exchange, so such a future plan for Fawry is very difficult to comment on. Okay. But let me talk in general in the market. I mean, we understand that the central bank are studying to issue few licenses in Egypt. But my understanding that this will be in a first phase to banks who wants to launch their digital bank. But let me comment on that. I mean, a digital bank is not again about offering your services through a mobile or internet. I mean, a digital bank is a completely different philosophy of addressing your consumers. I mean, it is about taking more risk and addressing consumer convenience issues. As an example, how can I get a loan very quickly? How can I access information about my account very quickly? How can I be onboarded very easily? So it is about a way of doing banking services rather than just an automating or doing the banking service through an electronic channel. It's completely different.
Okay. When do you think we will see a digital bank in Egypt?
You will. My understanding that this is going to happen very soon. I mean, within the next 12 months, we'll see something. Okay. But again, are we shifting to a true digital bank? I think this will take some time until we see a true.
Understood. So a lot of startups here are asking when will they be able to reach out and to have meetings with the fund that you're building?
Actually, now. I mean, now is the right time. I'll send you just after I finish the email, my fund email, okay. And I'm happy to receive requests from people who are interested to set together. Of course, we can do that, all of that through Zoom, but we are very actively working from home now.
Okay, perfect. Okay. What do you think the best projects that will meet Egyptian market needs in the coming years? So, okay, you mentioned of course what you guys do invest in, which is digital banking and big data, and you mentioned things related to digital lending, and you also used to work with Fawry on payment and stuff. What else? What other categories do you think that Egypt should focus on?
I would say also we see that the open banking wave will come to Egypt very soon. It's happening worldwide, but I think after the situation that we're going through, it will sweep the world very quickly. So people who have to study this area very well, and we are actively looking for companies who can provide solution to the open bank capability to allow other startups to access bank accounts in a convenient, secure, and
okay. Mahmoud Noor is asking if you can tell us about the co-investors in the fund with Fawry. Or
currently, I mean, we don't need to announce the other investors at this stage because we are still in discussion. Nothing is finalized. But very soon, once we have closed any deal, we will announce to the market.
Khalil is asking about how involved would be Fawry in the fund. And I guess you mentioned that Fawry is a separate thing.
It's completely separate, and Fawry would be working with all the companies either the fund is investing in or not, and the fund will be investing in any company that is potentially to work. However, the fund would be facilitating the engagement with the startups that they invest in with Fawry to utilize the infrastructure that they have done and to provide a mutual, plan on work on synergies between those, but I mean on non-exclusive terms.
Mahmoud is asking a very good question that I would love to ask Bardo myself. Don't you have concerns on the pipeline in Egypt because you're investing in like pre-series A rounds? Do you think there's a lot of pipeline for you?
And as you understand, the fund usually invests in number of years. I mean, it is not something that you invest everything very quickly. But I was astonished in the field.
How many years are you thinking of deploying the fund?
The plan is, I would say, 4 to 5 years as a deployment. That was my initial plan. But what I have seen in the last few weeks is that it will not take that long. I mean, we already going to announce in the next few months a couple of investments that we will be making as fund, and we think there is a lot of potential founders and entrepreneurs who are really going to make something very quickly to the market.
Omar is asking how Fawry made money out of payment aggregations with the small margin, profit margin from the operators.
Now, it is not about the small margin. It is about the number of transactions. I mean, many transactions with a small margin makes a lot of money. So you have to be very economically working on the building an infrastructure that can scale and accepting more transaction. And the definition I mentioned initially in the discussion today about the platform is working in a way of having more and more transaction on the platform and reducing the cost per transaction as we grow. So the unit economics is improving by time. So if you are not making time initially, you will be continuously making much more money when you increase the number of transactions, because the initial infrastructure is already considered as sunk cost.
Okay. Mustafa is asking a very good question here about fintech startups that you think now is doing a very good job and that they got your attention recently.
And I will not say all the names, but I mean, one of the interesting examples that happened in the consumer space, lending space, was Value. Value is one of the good examples who have really done Bardo our disruption. Before Value, there was the traditional banks and the credit card and the normal retailers who providing installments were very traditional, I would say. And by them coming to the market with an app, allowing consumer to be easily onboarded and to be easily buying from stores, they did something, or they threw a stone in the lake. So I mean, that was an example of good disruption.
طيب يعني a lot of people are asking question يا جماعة احنا يعني we can't answer all those questions unfortunately. I have like يعني a huge number of questions يعني I'm trying to find best what's relevant for the talk يعني. Omar is asking, do you see specific regulation or set of regulations designated by the government that needs modification to facilitate fintech in Egypt?
يعني not at this stage بصراحة. What they have done in the last few weeks is impressive. I mean, they have removed the KYC hurdle, as I mentioned. They have increased the wallet limit. They have removed the interchange or the merchant fees. And before that, they have also have extended the loan repayment for some of the SMEs. So they have done a lot, and even the government have issued a number of laws to allow to enforce the what they call the electronic payments on the government services. So they have done a lot. I mean, I would say it is not about the government now or the central bank being a showstopper. It is more and more about the startup themselves to move quickly.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, Ahmed has a wealth tech startup, apparently, and he's asking, why aren't we seeing strong wealth tech startup in Egypt? Do you see an opportunity in this area?
Sorry, what's the area? Sorry, again.
Wealth tech.
Wealth
tech, wealth management, yes.
The idea of, I would say, saving or accepting deposits is a bit or heavily regulated everywhere in the world. So I haven't seen, I would say, countries who are opening this up very quickly. I don't see it suppressing at this point of time in terms of because the investment opportunities for use if you collect money is really not that wide. So it's going to happen, but it is not a pressing, I would say, need in the Egyptian market now.
Perfect. Okay, so Ali is asking if Fawry has any role in the current crisis for COVID, for like handling COVID-19 or helping people to survive COVID-19?
And if Fawry have done a lot, I mean, I would say is because the banks have closed early and the operator shops closed early. Fawry groceries and pharmacies that have Fawry services continue to operate during the day and provide an options for people to settle their payment. Fawry now is allowing a lot of the as I mentioned, Nasser Bank, for example, to cash out. Fawry can play a very good role in the what you mentioned about the 500 for the unemployed population that's going to be receiving a subsidy from the government. So actually, Fawry is doing a great job in bridging the gap or complementing the others who are very short in terms of working time. Also, Fawry is enabling a lot of the electronic payments. Most of the e-commerce sites are depending, I would not say many of them, e-commerce sites are depending on Fawry as a payment option. And that is also another enabler for the e-commerce. So in many ways, Fawry is complementing or I would say filling a gap.
Okay. Wissam is asking, what are the mistakes you have made during leading Fawry, which you advise people not to do?
I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, they are numerous, but I mean, usually the culture that any startup or Fawry has is that you make mistakes, you make progress. So if you are afraid to make mistakes, or if you're afraid to lose some money, you usually miss on opportunities. So although that we have grown at the company in the last 10 years significantly, but we have always, as founders, run the company in a mood of startup, that we make decisions, we make mistakes, but we don't miss on opportunities. And this cost us some money, and we made some mistakes. But in general, we have captured a lot of opportunities as well.
Okay. There's a lot of questions, but I guess we ran out of time. I guess we will send to everyone a contact with Mr. MOHAMED OKASHA, so you can reach out, you can ask him yourself. Thank you so much, Mr. OKASHA. It was a very insightful discussion. I got to know a lot about fintech in Egypt, and it was a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hussam. Thank you very much for arranging that, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
يعني good luck with the new fund inshallah, and I'm sure we will see يعني a huge disruption in the fintech industry in the next 2 years, and you leading this as يعني you led Fawry before. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.